documentary filmmaker, to talk about starting a career in documentary filmmaking. And like always, we're going to have a very interactive conversation. So just pay attention, pick up your books, your pen, and then write every point that she is going to make. And at the end of the day, I believe that is going to help all of us. If you haven't liked our page, just like it and leave your comments for Kafui. Any questions whatsoever, kindly just leave them in the comment section and we will get back to you with the answers. So, Kafui,
Yeah,
how
hello.
are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing great today. It's been a little challenging getting to you, but we are here finally.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump straight into the conversation. I want you to just quickly introduce yourself to the people who don't know you. Who is Kafui Praise? Is that even your real name? And or what is it? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Kafui Praise is my brand name. My birth name is Matilda de Gucci.
Wow, nice,
I'm
Matilda.
a
Why? So why aren't you using the Matilda?
okay. I'm not using the Matilda because when I started Facebook, I think somewhere in 2008, I started with Kafui Praise. Even before photography, I had the name. I
Okay.
I chose this name because of my love for music.
Oh, wow.
Kafui means praise in Ewe. So it always reminds me to praise God through music. That's why I just love the name. Yeah, so when I moved into photography, I just kept the name.
Okay. So it's a brand name, Kafui Praise, but it's a beautiful name. So tell us about yourself. Where'd you come from? Where'd you live? Where'd you stay? Who are you? Who is Kafui Praise?
Kafui Praise is an Ewe woman from the Volta region of Ghana, Akachi to be precise. Yeah, I live in Accra, and I've lived in Accra all my life.
And you're a photographer and a filmmaker.
Yeah, photography and filmmaker for the past 5 years. Filmmaking 2 years, photography 5 years.
Wow. Okay. So we are going to be focusing more on your filmmaking aspect of your career. So how did you get into documentary filmmaking? Tell me your story. What happened? What got you into this? Is it from a past? Is it were you born with it? What inspired you to move from photography into filmmaking, and specifically documentary filmmaking?
Okay. What inspired me to move into filmmaking? I'll say what inspired me to move into filmmaking is having done photography for almost 4, 5 years. At a point, it started becoming boring. Shooting, I've shot over 40 weddings. Doing the same thing over and over and over again started getting boring for me, and I lost the joy I had when I started. So I wanted to learn something more to make it interesting. So filmmaking for me was I was just exploring, trying my way around to see how it would go. And lo and behold, it's been so far so good.
Wow. So you started like let's say 2 years now, 2 years in filmmaking, right? So what has been? I know it's not an easy thing transitioning from photography to filmmaking because it's a whole different ball game altogether. So
Yeah.
what has been that? What has been your best and your worst moment, and how has transitioning to filmmaking impacted you as a person?
My best and worst moments. I'll say the worst would be my shooting my first documentary film. I had I decided to fund it because I was tired of waiting for people.
So you decided to produce the content yourself.
Produce, fund, second shoot the camera. I did a two camera work with drone. So I wanted to I handled the second camera whilst directing it. And I went with my DOP and the drone guy. So all these I didn't know what it involved. Traveling with them to Kufori for like
Okay.
a whole week, and I ended up spending more than I thought or I had budgeted. So I came back so broke. I came back so broke, and that was one of my worst experiences. So yeah,
So
for my best,
it didn't dishearten you. Your first, I don't know that most of us filmmakers, our first attempts are really, really horrific because we have less knowledge about what we're trying to do, and we always
yeah,
find ourselves in these situations. Did it
very true.
dishearten you? Did it discourage you from pursuing what you had discovered?
Well, when I came back, for the first few weeks, it did, because now I had to find a way to get
Yeah,
myself back
psych yourself back.
financially, and then yeah, emotionally and psychologically. So I just put the whole footage aside and focus on other works and other jobs to just, so for like a whole 7 months I never touched the footage to
Wow,
even
seven
edit.
months.
I tell you, that's just how serious it was. I just forgot about it because I felt it took so much from me.
Yeah.
So I just focused on other jobs and other works, and that, yeah,
Wow.
that's how come. But after 7 months, when I went back to look at the footage, I appreciated the process because I realized it was worth every penny I spent to make it.
So what okay, so what impact would you say that documentary filmmaking has made on you as a person and on your brand?
The impact documentary films has made on me as a person and the brand is, first of all, it has changed me as a person, because the more I interact with my protagonists and my characters, I put myself in their shoes to understand them and what they go through. I sympathize with them. I'm able to understand them better. Take, for instance, this ability that we shot at Circle. I handled the second camera. That's one of the learning stages. By then, I was still learning my way around. So it was through the learning process. I handled the second camera while shooting this guy who can't walk, who can't talk so well, and yet trying to climb the stairs to go and then use the public washroom. A part of me, I was holding the camera yet crying at the same time. You have to shoot. You can't say you won't shoot. So I handled the camera and tears were just dropping. Should I drop this camera and help the guy, or I should? Sometimes you get conflicted between
Yeah, your emotions
what
and
to do.
then the pictures
Yeah,
that you want.
yeah, and especially we ladies, we are
Yeah,
there's
very
this
emotional.
soft, yeah, there's this soft part of us. So knowing the balance and how to balance both sides is one thing that many people find difficult in um, balancing. So it changes your mindset. Now, when I meet people who are going through the same thing, I feel for them more and I choose to help them more one way or the other. So documentaries changed me, and it has made me want to tell their stories more in order to get help for them firstly, to also change them in their own way or one way or the other.
Wow. So let me ask this question. So all this hustle you guys go through, does it documentary films in Ghana? Okay, let me before I even ask that question, let me ask this. What is the difference between the regular films that we see the fictional films, the whatever films, all of those stuff, versus documentary films? What is the difference between these two films, so that when somebody sees a documentary film, they know that this is a documentary film and they know that this is a fictional film, or the others?
Okay, the difference between documentary films and fictional films is, with fictional film, you get actors acting a specific role given to them by their directors or by the script writer or whoever. They act. It may be a true life story or it may be based on a true life stories, but you don't get those people who went through the things in the film, but other people act the film. So that's for fictional film. And also in fictional film, the director is in charge solely of what happens, what needs not to happen, and a whole lot of it. So they are being controlled. in documentaries, you tell real life stories of real people. As most of the times, you have the real people that you're talking about in your film. That's if they're still alive, you have them in your film. And also, in documentaries, God is the director. Yes, you, the director, can have a say, can guide the film to shoot it the way you want to tell the story. But God is the director in documentary film. And in fictional film, the director is God. So that's the difference, and then between documentary films and fictional
So
films.
Kafui, what would you say is the relevance of documentary filmmaking to a society or to a country or to a people? What is the relevance of documentary filmmaking?
The relevance of documentary filmmaking to a society, first of all, it educates the society. It educates and informs people. It changes narratives. It makes people talk about social issues, things happening, and it exposes things. Let's take, for instance, what's this documentary that Surviving R. Kelly.
Yeah.
That particular documentary opened the eyes of people to the reality of things that have happened years back. And today, that guy has been arrested.
Yeah.
It took a documentary for that to happen. The court system didn't act the way they were supposed to act years back when these things were reported. But it took a documentary for that to happen. And if you see what Anas does in Ghana, people fear Anas here more than God.
Yeah.
Why?
Because
he's able to expose things and record it. That is a documentary. So documentary has the power of changing people's mindset, exposing things through investigative documentary or expository documentaries. It has a way of making people see things as they are. And it's an eye-opening thing for a country to have this. Yeah.
So, well, why then would you? Why then do we have less filmmakers going into documentary filmmaking in Ghana? Or is it that it's super expensive and it's super dangerous, or it's super like for example, Anas's expose? I read somewhere that at some point he was even almost killed during one of the shoots. And I hear very dangerous things from some documentary filmmakers. We went into the forest, we stayed there 3 days. So it's like documentary filmmaking is very, very, very difficult and very daring. And only the strong-hearted can really participate. Is that why we have very less filmmakers going into documentary filmmaking?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that the reason we have less filmmakers going to documentary filmmaking is because, yes, it is expensive, because you can't tell how long you want to shoot a particular documentary. Some documentaries take 10 years.
Yeah.
There's this particular documentary that I've watched that took 10 years to shoot. Imagine 10 good years of your life shooting.
Just one.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You are not funded. If you're not funded, how do you keep this up for 10 years? It takes a certain will,
discipline.
Self-discipline
and self-motivation too.
Self-motivation is key, especially if you're not funded and you're using your own money or you're using your own skill to shoot these. You need a lot of self-motivation to keep it up. And going to this forest and these farms, I did that for like 7 months for a project I worked on for Oxfam. For 7 good months, I had to be traveling to the north every 6 weeks and staying there for 1 week roughly to shoot film following the lives of 3 families, how they're affected by climate change, and then how they work their way out of poverty.
Wow.
So it's quite an experience. You go to the farm. Sometimes I had to walk for close to 2 hours with my monopod and camera and your sound. You're walking in the farm. Accra girl. Sometimes you have to, when it is in the rainy season, you have to cross some rivers. we go through all this because, and I loved it. I feel alive when I do this because I loved what I do. And that alone is enough motivation for me aside from being paid to do it.
Yeah.
But even the ones I find myself, I go all out to shoot them. So it's not an easy industry. And one thing too, documentaries don't sell in Ghana.
Yeah.
It doesn't sell. Fictional films, yes, you may get some sponsors, you may get some support out there, but they sell. But for documentaries, no one will be willing to buy a
To buy a
documentary.
documentary.
They don't have the understanding of the impact or what it means to them. For the fact that they have to just sit and then watch, it doesn't sell in Ghana.
Yeah.
Unless you take it outside Ghana or you do it as a project for the international market. For Ghana, it doesn't sell. That's why many filmmakers are not going to it because, yes, they need to survive. You have to pay your DOP, you have to pay the director, you have to pay your editor. You need all these things. How are you going to survive by doing these things without making your money back?
Yeah.
So it's not an industry that attracts filmmakers. That's why we have less people doing it.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Now, let me say, okay, so if I want to become a documentary filmmaker today, what are the things that you think that I need to do, the skills that I need to get, or what is there a blueprint that you can give us to help the young ones who are thinking of coming into an industry like yours? What do I need to do to set out my career in documentary filmmaking?
Okay. What do you need to do to set out your career in documentary filmmaking? First of all, you need to know your way around documentary filmmaking. You need the training, you need the education to know what it is about and which aspect of documentary filmmaking that you enjoy. Is it the technical aspect of it, DOP, camera, sound, editing, that you enjoy, or you enjoy the directing aspect and writing aspect of it? You need to know which part you enjoy and master that part before you get help to help you do your story. You need to know, at least know something, master a field, or master all of them, or have an idea on or have I think basic knowledge on each field and what it entails and all, in case you find yourself alone on a you find yourself alone.
Yeah,
And I found myself
most times you guys find yourself a lone wolf shooting.
Yes. In the north, I had to shoot alone because your flight tickets and everything, your hotel accommodation and everything has been paid for one person. So you have to find yourself being a DOP, being a director, and you have to be the interviewer too on top.
Yeah.
So you are interviewing your protagonist, and at the same time, you have to also be watching around for any distractions, for any sound. It's crazy, but and one thing that helps is knowing your way around all these things. If one way or the other helps you to know how to balance things. So it's good to have knowledge in every field, should in case you find yourself, and that's one way to start. So if you have the knowledge, even with your mobile phone, you can tell a story. You don't need the Red, the 6D, there's A7 III, Sony, or FS5 to tell a documentary story. You can even use your mobile phone to tell a documentary story if you have the knowledge and the skill on how to go around it. So get the skill first. Then from there, work with what you have, even if it's your mobile phone. Depending on where you want to take it, start from somewhere, start with what you have. The best tool is what you have with you now. So master it, then gradually move from there to getting a DSLR camera or a mirrorless camera. Whichever one you want to work with, start from somewhere. Yeah. So that's how to start.
Okay. So, but is there specific fields that somebody can decide to choose? Okay, I want to be maybe an investigative documentary, whatever you guys call it. Maybe I don't know the genres. of documentary, but I know that there are some kind of, genres, and
Yeah,
probably
they are.
people must figure out what they love, and probably people might
Yeah,
want to even do food documentary, stuff like that,
exactly.
crazy stuff like
It's
that. So,
possible. Yeah. There are various types of documentaries. I think mainly the ones out there are six types, which is let me see, the poetic documentaries,
okay,
the expository documentaries, and observational documentaries, participatory documentaries, and reflective documentaries. That's mostly about the filmmaker, kind of,
okay,
and the performative documentaries. These are various and there are many more out there that keeps coming and adding to the list. So, as a documentary filmmaker, it's good you study and know all these fields and which one you think you would love to do.
wow,
You might find yourself telling a story or doing a documentary that involves three or four or two
yeah,
of these various fields merging
merging
together.
together.
So you can blend in all these things. So you just need to have the knowledge and then flow with the story and let the story lead you. Yeah.
Okay, what as a film? So, what personality should one have to be able to survive in as a documentary filmmaker?
What personality should one have to be able to survive as a documentary filmmaker? Be resilient, be determined. Let the fire that made you start keep burning. When you get weary and you want to give up, remember what made you start in the first place. The fire that made you start in the first place, remember that fire and let that fire keep you going. You need to have self encouragement. You need to self motivate one way or the
Yourself.
other. Just keep, yeah. You end up being your own encourager, your own motivator. You need that every step of the way to keep through and survive here. And also, one most important thing is that because this industry or this documentary industry doesn't really pay here in Ghana, unless you do it for the international market or for film festivals and stuff like that. If you have other jobs that you can do on the side, you need to do it, and then that would ease the load of survival or the load of financial getting money.
Dependency on
Yeah, it will ease that load on you so that you can just do documentary films for the love of it.
of it, not for the money aspect,
Exactly.
because it might
So you
discourage
do it
you.
for the love of it. Yeah, yeah. Because I can't be hungry and I'll find myself shooting. Why would I shoot when I'm hungry and I'm starving? So that thought alone. So that if you have other jobs you can do on the side, you keep doing it and then do the documentary for the love of it. And at the right time, it pays. It pays. It really pays. If you do it well and you tell an interesting story, and you're able to present it out there, and it wins awards, it wins recognition, surely it will pay off.
Wow. This leads me into my next question. I think you have hinted a little bit on it, but let's just stress a little bit on it and then we will wrap up. So, if I create a documentary film right now, what are my chances of distribution? How do I go about distribution? I know you've mentioned a few, but let's just hint on it. How do I distribute my documentary content?
Distribution for documentary content here in Ghana.
Yeah, and probably all over the world. How do I get my work seen after shooting?
Okay, how do you get your work seen? First of all, after the premiere, you have various. Now, thank God for social media. We all have publicity power at our fingertips. First of all, you can do Vimeo, have a channel, an account there to put your work out there and use it to apply to various festivals to get it out there. There isn't like, hardly do you get a distributor here in Ghana who would take up your documentary films to distribute for you. So you, the director, have to do your own thing and then push it out there. We have D-Word. D-Word is a documentary platform that is an international documentary platform that educates and guides people. So You can get people there. First of all, you need to create the network. Desktop documentaries also guys in more like educational platforms. But for distribution, YouTube can play a role. YouTube, Vimeo, yeah, those are the two places I know. Facebook and the rest, nah. YouTube and Vimeo are the key places you put it out there. But one thing you need to know is that you may not be paid for that unless you sell it to the TV stations to show on their channels. And we both know Ghana.
They don't really pay.
It it takes, in fact, it's one in a million to have your documentary being played there, and they may not even be willing to pay the amount you spent in making that film. So it discourages filmmakers a lot to send their thing. So they just do it, use it, apply it to the film festival, international film festivals, because they value and recognize and appreciate it and are willing to even pay for it, award you for it, and even fund you for your traveling out there. And one thing you need to make sure you do is that while shooting your film or before shooting your film, make sure that all your characters or your protagonists sign a release form. It's very, very important. With that release form, it shows that you have their permission
To use their
to shoot them and then put their faces out there. So should in case you get to the international market, you are covered. You don't get there and then you don't have the right. Yeah. And never make the mistake of shooting before going for the release form. Now they will think, yes, you're going to use it for something, so now they want you to pay them. When you were not even funded to do the shoot in the first place. Even if you're funded, always make sure your protagonist sign a release form to cover you. Especially so when you go out there to show the films and your work out there, you don't find yourself wanting. And there are also various international distribution channels that you may need to research on. You may need to research on to find them, but you need to also be careful. So, as much as they are good ones, they are also bad ones. Many of them have gone bankrupt, and people are trying to get their films back to do their own distributions. So I think it's always safer for you to do your own distributions unless you get someone you can trust who has the networks to make it, to do what to help you.
Okay. All right. So I think we've spoken enough about all of this stuff. And if you're watching us, just leave your comments there, ask your questions, whatever you want to know about documentary filmmaking. Kafui will be here to answer you in the comment sections. And so, Kafui, let's go to the last question for, I think, last but one question. So what is next for Kafui after, I know your film is premiering. Tell us about it. What is next for you?
Okay, Redemption, my documentary film, is premiering at the Silverbird Cinema on the 29th of this month, 6:30 p.m. It's free. All are invited. I'll leave the link in one of the comment sections so that you can click and then book a seat. But you need to book a seat before
You can, okay.
to have a seat reserved for you for the 29th. So you're all invited. And the good and awesome thing about being present is you don't just get to watch my documentary. You get to watch 5 other films, 2 other documentaries, and 3 fictional films created or supported or financed by the All On Board. No, that's Make a Difference. Make a Difference. World Film and YMCA Ghana came together to make this happen. So being there I'll be glad to see you, and it's free. Popcorn and everything, drinks will be available, so come and enjoy.
So what's your next project? What are you thinking of?
I have about 5 stories, documentary stories in the pipeline I'm working on. And I think the next one after Redemption that will be released is Beyond the Odds. And that will be the next one. It will be released few months after Redemption. And the others will follow.
So next year is a busy year for you.
Yeah, this year, next year. They take a lot of time, so you keep shooting, and some of the works, patience. As a documentary filmmaker, you need a lot of patience because you can start shooting today and you'd have to show that story the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So you need to have the patience of Abraham when he was waiting for Isaac.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Finally, I always ask my guests this question because I believe that the government and stakeholders in the industry have a bearing and a contribution to make to the development and growth of the industry. So I always ask, what will be your advice to stakeholders and to the government concerning this industry, and then as well, finally, your comments to your advice to all emerging this documentary filmmakers out there who just want to be like you.
Okay, first of all, you said my advice to the government.
Yeah, the government and stakeholders, and then the emerging documentary filmmakers.
Government and stakeholders. I would tell the government and then the stakeholders to support us. At least give us grants, these films. If we get these grants, it will be easier for more people to come and make creative films to tell stories that will push Ghana forward on the international market. And to my fellow filmmakers or anyone who is looking on getting into the documentary filmmaking, just be your own and encourager. Have that boldness, be determined. You never know what you can do unless you try. Start with what you have. Start from somewhere. Start today.
Okay.
It
All
will
right,
pay off.
Kafui. I'm very much glad we spoke today, and I really, really appreciate your work that you're doing. And we on the 29th. We will be at the Silverbed, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Silverbed. We'll be at Silverbed to share in your story, and then we are looking forward to the great stuff out there. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you very much, Kafui. Have a good evening, and next week we'll be back again with another episode. Goodbye. So let's talk film. And like always, we talk about